Welcome back. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to go over my very first book, Pistolwhip. All right, here we go. This is Pistolwhip. This is the second printing and complete edition, which means it has book 1 and 2. Pistolwhip was originally 2 books, and then a shorter comic book called Mephisto and the Empty Box, which is a 24-page standalone story. So we're going to go over all of those today. They're all in here. Anyway, a new cover I did a few years ago for the big collection with every character. And then end papers. I had the idea was I could write your name in there and sign the book. And I believe this pattern was a pattern that I scanned from an old piece of wrapping paper, like a vintage piece of wrapping paper, I believe. And again, I use this background a lot. I used it in Super Spy, Mind Management even, a lighter version of it, but just an old piece of newsprint that I scanned in years ago, and I've been kind of using ever since. I feel like it gives everything kind of a warm sort of hue. One big thing is these books originally were in black and white, and Marie Enger, who I share a studio with, was a student of mine back in the day. I hired her to color the book. So how we worked on that is I sort of provided a rough palette and sort of let her, within that palette, like a vintage palette that would have been of the era, sort of help tell the story. She did such a great job. All right. And then this is the first book. This is the standalone. This was a 24-page standalone story. This was actually written by Jason Hall. We met when I was first breaking into comics, and I had written Pistolwhip. And then he had given me some notes and some feedback on ways to make it better. And so I was like, well, why don't we do this together, like build a whole world around this book that I wrote. And then we sort of co-write. But this one he wrote and I drew, about a magician who puts his wife into a box during a magic trick and she ends up disappearing. This is some of my first published work. This Mephisto came out at the same time as Pistolwhip, the graphic novel. And is my first published comic book pages. And here's the box. In this Mephisto, the devil face on here is based on a mask I bought with Charlene when we were on vacation in Venice. It hung on our wall for the longest time. We still have it. And again, it was really important to, it's fun to see this in color. But these vintage colors, limited color palette. This is I was hand lettering too here, and I think I would hand letter Pistolwhip and then Two Sisters, and after that, when I went to Super Spy, I found a font that sort of looked like hand lettering, and I went to a font after that. The hand lettering was not my, it's hard to do, and I was doing this all with brush, and then doing hand lettering with white paint over black ink was a little bit rougher than I care for. Plus, the doing revisions, if I rewrite anything on the fly, it's just harder to do. So other than these first 2 or 3 books, everything's been computer letters ever since. But I really do. I like the sort of quirky hand lettering look. And you see he's sad. He spends the whole issue kind of looking for his wife, trying to figure out what happened to her. A little bit of a spoiler, I guess. So, I think it's kind of an ambiguous ending. I kind of have an idea what it means, but anyway, we'll go into it. I don't want to spoil it. This is the original cover for Pistolwhip, the graphic novel that came out. And this is, I think it was a stock photo. I designed the logo to go on it. And then Charlene actually did like a photo transfer. So she sprayed this, gosh, I don't know what you spray onto the photo, and then you put it onto a piece of paper, rub it down, and so all this texture and everything gets applied to it. So it kind of gave it a neat sort of weathered look. This is actually a photo I took of old tubes. I had a big box of old tubes for tube radios that I bought at a yard sale, estate sale, and just had forever. I think when I originally launched this book, I had little tags with Pistolwhip and a little description of the book that went along, and I tied it to these tubes and was handing those out. I was trying to figure out my promotions back then. And this is it. This is the first thing I wrote Andrew, first published work anyway. And let me know, post in the comments if you want to see my first comic books. I did 3 or 4 mini comics that I self-published. I still have a bunch of them. I might show those. I might not. I'll have to look at them, see if they're too embarrassing or not. All right, so here we go. This is one of the characters. There's 4 main characters in Pistolwhip in this first book. This one is violinist, based on one of my favorite musicians at the time, Andrew Bird, still one of my favorites. And then here we go. This is the first appearance of Mitch Pistolwhip, the main character, who's sort of a wannabe private eye, used to be a bellhop. This is my first character. I remember inking these pages, and there was an early version, a self-published version that I did that had comic strips with this character in it. But he was a comic strip character in the reality of the other book I did, which was kind of autobiographical. That was my first book. So technically this is his second appearance. And then here's Charlie Minx. Just kind of a fun character that he's going to bump into later. What else can I say about Mitch? I won't say too much. Yeah, anyway, I had used to use pens when I was inking, and then I moved to brush. I really loved, at the time I loved Jeff Smith and his clean line art, and so I was trying to sort of channel him a little bit, sort of get those clean, sort of cartoony lines. This is based, I think there was a place we went in Paris, the first time we were there. There was a place called The Cave that we went to see some jazz there, and then so I based it on that. I think I had a photo I used as reference for this. All right, and then we see Mitch at night. This is kind of like fun sort of film noir, all of my great old influences of Humphrey Bogart and Maltese Falcon, that kind of thing. Raymond Chandler. Mr. Vogel is the name of this character with the violin. Again, based on Andrew Bird. Vogel is German for bird. And then his band is called The New Ideas. I named his band The New Ideas only to set up a joke later in the book, where they ask him where his band is, where's the new ideas, and he says there are no new ideas. That's my joke. And then this is Circus Banner in here. This is the Human Pretzel. He's sort of the villain of the story. He in the Circus Banner he has up is a banner we actually had hanging above our fireplace for years. So a lot of little autobiographical references in this. So Van Gogh. I think this is a reference to Richard Sala, the Chuckling What's It. Put some stuff in there from him. He was a huge inspiration. He's really missed. Great, and then it's fun. Marie, what she did with the color here around the sound effects, really like how she had that texture. And then we're just following all this convoluted plot. The way Pistolwhip is structured is every chapter tells the story of one character all the way through till this scene where they all shoot each other and they're all on the floor. And then we go back. We get a radio script here, sort of that ties into the main story. And then we start all over. And so we get the point of view of Mitch as a bellhop in this chapter. These are things that an old fountain pen I had. I was into fountain pens at the time. Mitch out here, this is pre-detective. He wants to be a detective. Loosely autobiographical. I guess I always thought maybe I might be a private eye, but I'm not cut out for that. So that didn't happen. Here we go, REO radio. There's radio plays happening in the background here, but all sort of will tie the story together. And again, the color shifts here are great. So we're in a new chapter, which Mitch, as a bellhop, who's trying to become a detective. And so we see him go back to the present day as he remembers being shot. Crawling out, we find out what happened. He confronts the Human Pretzel. Then a little radio play script in between. And this is what the original version of Pistolwhip that I wrote and drew, it had script pages in between, but to incorporate Jason in this one, which it's kind of already done when we met, he wrote the scripts, these radio play scripts that go in between. Then we had the idea to do like some notes on the side from the actors and make them look like actual scripts. Here we go. Then we cut to Gogh. So we see where he was and what happened to him before they were all shot in Callaghan icicles. And then here we see his band. So there was a band, but he leaves them behind. And then we sort of follow his struggle as he immigrates cross country. We see his backstory, and then we see these, who I'm calling pirates. When I wrote this book, and a lot of my early books, what I would do for story ideas is just write down a list of things I wanted to draw, which was, in this case, it was detectives and circus freaks and pirates. And so then I had to try to figure out a way to get all of that in one book. This is based on an actual boat. I remember that there was a photo, I used it for reference for this. They had a pool like inside the boat. It's kind of neat. Creepy pool. Mrs. Dalloway, some obvious references there. And a lot of this, I know in my current stuff, I know my friend Brian, who I share the studio with, he was always asking me to go back to some of this, the bending the perspective. Well, that was some of his favorite things I did, and I got away from that a little bit, but I'm trying to put a little bit of that motion and that sort of unrealness back into it. And here we go. And it's definitely back in the day, my stuff, I was more cartoony. I think I was more in the Jeff Smith school of cartooning. And as I've gotten older, I think I've pushed it a little bit the other direction. Still distorted, but not quite as much. And it's interesting, this cartoony style gives us a little bit more of a fun tone than some of my later stuff, which I feel like is a little more serious. And I'm not sure the tone of this art style would even fit some of my later stuff. We get a happy ending here for Mr. Vogel. Another script page. So now we cut to Charlie. We see what happened to her after she got shot. We get her whole backstory. Raised by pirates. It's a fun story. And I was having a lot of fun with comics and moving the camera around through keyholes. And I love like lots of panels on a page. I still love that. Here we go. This sweaty guy was based on Orson Welles from Touch of Evil. Again, a lot of references to some of my early influences popping up in this. And some early bugging, so he's recording things, and you can see I'm about to fall into the world of spies. And she meets this guy who's based on Chris Ware. I think that's supposed to be Chris Ware there. Dies when his gun backfires. Sorry, Chris. Also one of my influences, storytelling influences. Right, then we see there's a little glimpse of a character that Jason created for the Pistolwhip sequel. So sort of inserted him here to sort of plant that seed of a character named Jack Peril, who's sort of a radio superhero character that's in this book. So then we have the Human Pretzel. Homage here to, not a direct homage, but to Edward Hopper. Those views from outside looking in to a warm interior setting, but with a little twist that there's a little bug here with a wire. Everything's being recorded. See Charlie Minx getting fixed up. Another radio script, and then we get to the final chapter, which is the Human Pretzel and his story. He's kind of the mastermind. Small spoilers here. And as he's dying, we get his backstory as a circus freak. And then this again, here's the banner. This is what we actually have, that one from like sideshows. Gosh, where did we? I remember we bought this at a curio shop, and we had to save up money. We paid it off in installments so we could afford it, but just painted on canvas. It used to be part of a real sideshows. Anyway, now we see why he's called the Human Pretzel. This is pretty. And then the Snake Girl, which I thought would be interesting to tell a story of the Snake Girl, who we had the banner of. Not really a snake girl. She kind of wears something on her legs. Spoiler. More circus backstory. And now we see how the relationship between Charlie Minx and the Human Pretzel. And then he dies. And then a little gag here about why, and then contrasting with him dying. And then we see Mitch Pistolwhip confronting him at the end. And then we get the epilogue. I really didn't want to do captions. I've always sort of, especially in the early days, Two Sisters, and some of Super Spy, I did not want to do captions. I felt like it took you out of the story. So I would always slip those in as newspapers or try to figure out how to get that in there somehow. Then a subtle little thing here as he walks by Theodore Pendergrass, attorney at law. Last panel, when he walks by, you can see it says, "The End." He's looking at flapjacks. Just a little visual joke. Then a little newspaper clipping that sort of ties it all together. And this is the inside back cover of the original book. And then this is the back cover of the original book, which is the back cover of the radio. Not the radio from the front, though. I couldn't find a stock photo of the back of a radio, so I took a picture of one and sort of photoshopped it all, put it together. This is a short story we did for a Dark Horse anthology. Jason and I co-wrote, and then I drew it. Just kind of a fun one. A lot of visual stuff going on here. But it's getting, I can see that there's a big leap in art from the first book to this one, because it had been a while. And then we did this story, so I'd gotten a little bit better in the meantime. I feel like I was getting more confident with the brush, and then just a lot more feeling of spotting the black areas. All right, and then Pistolwhip, Yellow Menace. This was book 2. This is the first book that Jason wrote, and then I drew it. And we sort of plotted it together, and then he wrote the script, and then I drew the book. And as I was drawing it, I realized that I don't want to, and these are actually the correct characters. We had someone, friend of Jason's, figure out the characters for us. But yeah, this is drawing this one. Halfway through drawing this, I realized I can't be drawing another person's script. I don't like it. It's just not as much fun. I feel like I'm not involved enough, or I'm not able to sort of add things, or when you're drawing a page, you're thinking about it for so long, so much longer than anybody who's writing a script, including myself. So when you're doing that, you're thinking of new ideas all the time, and just shut those ideas down is just something I couldn't do. So I wouldn't draw from another person's script for probably 10 years maybe. I did it one more time with Cullen Bunn on The Tooth, and then a couple times with Jeff Lemire, Black Hammer, and then a couple issues of Sweet Tooth. But by the time I'd done those, it was a little bit different. I felt like I could go into those collaborations with the idea that, hey, I'm going to be adding things or changing things or having some input on the storytelling. Anyway, here we go. We did get over the captions again 10 years ago, 10 months, 10 days. Jason and I had a lot in common with storytelling, what we like to do. This is definitely more of a radio serial with sort of a superhero sort of character, fictional superhero character. I was getting more confident with my art style, mixing washes in. And then this is the Jack Parrow character, which is he's sort of a nutball who thinks he's the character from the radio serial, like a superhero, but he's really just going through using that to deal with some of his grief. Minor spoiler. Here we have a little seduction of the innocent, sort of a eye gouge reference. And there's sort of a mystery, a bunch of characters. There's some references to M, the silent movie, here with Elsa and the reflection. Charlie and Minx is back. All the characters are back. We introduce a new maid, who I think was based on Jason's grandmother. I can't remember. And then this villain. And then this guy, there's some subliminal stuff hidden in his face, but I don't think it's there. It's coming up later. Getting a lot of small panels. I love the storytelling in this. And then my first time I was trying to replicate sort of like the old printing technique with the dot pattern. Gotten better over the years at that, but it was an early attempt. A lot of stuff going on in these panels, which I like. I think this holds up really well. And then the canted camera angle from the postcard matching the pencil, the chalk mark, and then we have this box again. A lot more dialogue in this. Also, I think more than I was comfortable lettering or putting into panels. There's a lot. But I think it works out. It's real dense. Kind of like it, if I can say that. Here we go. We have this guy who's, I don't know if this is where it is either, but there's some subliminal, there's some things in his face. He's railing against comic books and how bad they are and how there's hidden things in there, and I thought it'd be funny to hide some things in his face. Maybe turn upside down or something. Alright, a lot of stuff going around. Reference to the Cat People, one of my favorite old movies. Such great photography in that. Then old comic book pages. So I was trying a different style of old style inking and coloring. And then here's another one. I think there's a lady in the smoke if you look upside down. You can kind of see her. A lady in there somewhere. Yeah. So not everything he was saying about the comics being subversive was wrong, even though he's kind of the villain in this book. All right, here we go. Crazy Jack Parrow, accidentally stopping a crime. Some flashbacks to the first book. This is acrylic painting I actually did. All the lettering was done on the computer, but I still have this somewhere on canvas. but I thought it'd be fun to paint. Try some acrylic painting. Hadn't done it since college, which by the time this book came out, it was probably 5 or 6 years. Mixing some charcoal, like on these pages with actual ink. Kind of fun. I feel like there's a hidden message in here too, but I can't remember. I don't see it. That might have been in Super Spy. This little symbol, this is a little symbol we repeat over and over again. It's a symbol for the secret society that we sort of hid everywhere subliminally. Here you go, a lot of dialogue here. This is another thing I think that was part of why I didn't have a good time drawing this, was so much dialogue. It was hard to figure out sort of how to handle it all. So I had to sort of figure out ways to do that. There we go. A lot of mystery stuff, but yeah, I think there's a leap in the art from this book, from the first book. I feel like I got better. Man, I remember these being hard. I had to print. This is, I don't know why I didn't do it in Photoshop, but these, I had to print these out and then paste them on the page. I think I was trying to do everything on the page, so I printed these out, pasted them down, used charcoal, used ink to get these sort of silent movie title cards. I remember that being a real hassle, but it's cool. You can't really tell I did it by hand anymore, but the original art pages look like that. This is cool. Here's that secret society symbol, sort of hidden there with inner balloon. Also a reference to M, Fritz Lang's M, which Jason was a big fan of. Here we go. Now we realize we get the backstory of Jack Parrow, sort of see his backstory, what he was dealing with, and how he dealt with it. I like this. This is something I added as we go into his ear, and then there's like a screw loose, but then it cuts through the car rattling. Maybe one of my favorite transitions. All right, here we go. More mystery, more everything. Maybe a reference to Blue Velvet here. I don't remember her hiding in a sort of a closet. I definitely think there's a subliminal message in here somewhere in this explosion, but I can't remember what it is either. Gee Whiz was the name of the comic place. This is supposed to be me and Jason trying to get our book published, and then we get blown up, of course. Then try my hand again at acrylic oil painting, or an acrylic painting. It was okay. This is my early stuff, so sometimes it's a little hard to look at. Then we get through these pulp books, and it was fun to sort of do charcoal drawings to sort of look like those black and white spot illustrations in the old pulp books. It's fun to do those. Classic moths in the inner purse to show that she's poor. Classic comic book trope. Then another transition in through the ear. Shows him practicing being a private eye with his gun. We get some references to some of the old stories, that 8-page story, and then Estel's boat engine repair. This is based on my wife's grandfather, who was he repaired lawnmowers, but that'd be nice to put him in here. And flashbacks. There's a lot going on, a lot of characters in this one. More pulp pages, which is kind of fun. Had fun writing a lot of this, a lot of little in-jokes. And then more pulp pages as we get the backstory of Jack Parrow. A mix of reality and fiction of the character, so we could understand why he is how he is. delusional. There we go. One more. This is based on, gosh, what's the name of the painting? I've referenced this painting a few times. Basically, it's a classic, like Renaissance painting of Jesus being buried in a tomb. But we've used that a few times. A lot of reflections too in this. It's interesting. This is maybe one of my favorite panels. I remember drawing this one, and as I was drawing it, I thought it would be great to mirror Mitch's psychology with the light, just sort of limp, just like not even enough energy to shoot straight out, just like failing like him. Anyway, I think if there's a panel in this entire book I love, it's that one. There you go. We use the bird to sort of change scenes. You'll see a lot of this later in Two Sisters, which I talked about in a different video. But transitioning from different scenes, rather than doing a hard cut, there's a visual that takes us from one to the other. All right, and now we finally get the backstory for the villain. Sort of mirrors the structure of the first Pistolwhip book. As it all comes together, this little monkey sort of mixing things up. And then they confront the bad guy, who's condemning comic books. He's actually been killing people as this yellow menace in real life. For his scene in 6, I think this might be the street from the Untouchables. I have to go look. Somebody, if that's the street that Sean Connery lives on in the Untouchables, please post it in the comments below. And if it's not, let me know that too. I'm pretty sure that's what that reference was to. Here we go, some action. He gets shot. Go to this kind of a back alley doctor. Hotel Chase was actually based on the Chase Hotel, which was across the street from where my parents live now. But they didn't live there at the time, but they live there now. So. And I do like this panel. Okay, maybe this is my second favorite panel. Is she socks the bad guy in the gut, and this is a straight up homage to Oswald getting shot. It's kind of funny. Forgot about that. And then there's a doll with a bomb in it. Crazy. This is where there's a secret reference or a subliminal message. I think it says SEX. Dumb, but funny. Again, I just thought it'd be funny to make some subversive references in the comic about a comic where a guy's claiming that comics are bad for you. This is interesting. The inking on this is interesting. Kind of like that. I don't know why I did that. I think this is my parents. Old comic book page is really fun. And I know that this was based on one of Jason's friends. I think he's the one that actually helped us with the characters between the chapter breaks. And we're wrapping it all up. We got a dog. He's still talking about flapjacks. This guy's in jail. Here we have the Secret Society symbol. Approved comics. But it's the Secret Society. Jason and I had planned a series of Pistolwhip books, and then this Secret Society was going to play a role in everything. So we'd seeded this early so that we could come back and do some fun things with it. But again, after this book, I just need to write and draw my own thing. And this book helped me realize that's what I need to do. So, Pigeon, this character is actually based on a friend of ours. He's a really good singer. And then There we go. With the sweaty guy from Touch of Evil, Orson Welles, in the background. And then a pirate. And then the secret society symbol. Then we thought it'd be fun to have an index. So there's an index here with a bunch of stuff. Jason was really into, or he was very organized, so he went through and did all of this stuff. But I think if you do look, yeah, secret society is blacked out, but here's all the references to it with that symbol in it. Then there's subliminal art if you look on 208, 214, 294, 300. Those are all the places where I hit something. Yeah, but this is a pain because when we put this in a book, we had to figure out all the numbering again. Hard to do. All right, and that is the back cover, which I used a lot of old wrapping paper and just different tissue papers I had found Chinatown, San Francisco. And I'd scanned all that in and sort of collaged it together. And then it's cool, a lot of making of. We did a little mini comic to sort of promote the books before it got published. So this sort of explains the book and what we were trying to do. We did that as a mini comic, and then some original drawings. This is the little tag that I had actually tied to those radio tubes to promote it. Here's a picture of me in a hat. Oh, and this is the first mini comic. Yeah, I forgot all about that. I don't even know if that exists anymore. And this is actually my first self-published comic, and this is the first appearance of Minx Pistolwhip that I talked about. Kind of cool to see it. You can sort of definitely see my art evolve. I remember spending so much time on this one drawing, and obviously not as much on the rest. Practice makes perfect here. Oh, and this is a map we did with all the story pieces of the story mapped out. It was fun. Spot illustration, Charlene, my wife, painted that. That's one of our first comic book collaborations. Thought it'd be fun to do some turnarounds, animated turnarounds for these characters. We did little tobacco cards too. We had little packs of these we gave out to sort of promote the book, and a little decoder ring. I don't know where the codes are, and I remember doing this paper doll set and a little calendar. We had a bunch of fun with, and then a set of postcards. And script pages for, yeah, some of the next books that we never did. There we go. That's it. And then you can see, if you look real close, you can see that secret society symbol hidden in the pattern right there. All right, that's it. That's Pistolwhip, my very first 2.5 books.